right? And that's all he needs to set up. He doesn't need to talk to the DBA or anyone like that. And he basically says, right? Basically says, okay, I want to create my own database, and he'll say, right? So the thing basically does what a DBA would have done for you, right? Imagine in a project where a DBA is sitting on a different floor somewhere, you join the project, and the DBA, you send an email to the DBA, okay, you is going to join my project, can you create a database schema for him? The DBA replies or gets to it whenever he's at his desk, creates a schema for him, and replies back. In the meantime, you sit idle, doing nothing, because he doesn't have a schema, right? That's time wasted, right? That's pure waste of time. If you set up something like this, where you can basically check out the stuff from some version, create his build property file or change or whatever, and he just says, and db create. So the database is there for in 2 seconds, instead of waiting for the DBA to reply back and then get to whatever schema he created. So that's the way we are saying, okay, this is what adds productivity to our team, which is reducing waste, right? So if you read Mary Poppins' Lean Project Management book, in that she talks a lot about reducing waste. Like Lean is a lot about reducing waste. So this is one of the ways you can reduce waste on a team by not waiting on people, like automating tasks that can be easily automated instead of waiting for people to get tasks done. That's one of the key things, right? And okay, some cluster problems. So when I run add DB in a target, it's basically going to go ahead, recreate my whole schema for me, which means like all of the tables, views, indexes, sequences, whatever we have, so that I will get a full-fledged schema for myself. And if you see here, it is recreating all of it, right? So basically, it will give you a database as your application wants it. There's no manual interaction at all anyway, right? And it will pick up the files that you have right from your version control directories, right? So you don't have to kind of get it from somewhere else, like copy it or whatever. There's no manual task anyway. And what it does is gives you a way to automatically recreate. Now when, like on most of the ThoughtWorks projects, when our cruise control makes the build, it basically recreates the database and then runs like the compile, and then runs like build the jars, and then runs all the unit tests against a fresh database every time. And it also gives me a way to verify that my database is the right database for the application that I'm building for this given build, right? So that's the key thing, like where you are joining your source code, your database code, your database structure, all together in one push control build. Now, if you imagine the power of that, you will have, when you are not have to go anywhere else other than cruise control for your application code as well as your database code. All right. So basically, you saw how the DBA doesn't have to do manual tasks, like it doesn't have to create a schema for you all the time. That's the things you take off the DBA's plate. So you can do more things. There are more interesting things than just creating schemas and stuff for your team, for the DBA to do. Like he can help you with SQL tuning, he can help you with like production planning, he can do capacity planning and that kind of stuff, instead of like just going around creating schemas for you. That's things that you can automate and take off the DBA's table, right? It also shows how you can reduce waste, which is basically add more to your productivity, more to your team, so you can do more things in the same given amount of time. Like you are not waiting on people to do things for you. All right. It also shows how you can do like simple things that you can automate easily. Like when you create a schema, the DBA is actually doing some specified number of things. And you can easily script them out, right? So it's yourself and then check them in. Like we'll see more about that in the following presentation. that's the environment that you saw just now, like developers basically working against a source control where the check in, check out, and the continuous integration is what basically runs the whole application together. And your continuous integration, when the build runs on the continuous integration, you use the database server also, and the developers also use the database server. They're all using different schemas though, so they're not kind of contending on one another or stepping on one another, right? So that's a much more complex image of a complex workflow of what happens like in Agile team. Like your team or your pair is working in this red box here. They are using whatever development tools like Java, Ruby, whatever else they have, and they are making their own database changes. And when they are done with the database changes, they create what is called as delta scripts or change scripts or whatever. And they basically check in that change script into source control. And cruise control or whatever your continuous integration engine is, picks up those changes and creates a database for itself against cruise control. And then once the build is ready, it will publish the delta scripts and publish the artifacts, which is basically your application, jar or var or whatever you create. And then it's ready to be deployed to your production or UAT database environment. So when you deploy the